In the golden years of her life, Amelia Harrington, an 80-year-old woman of dignity and grace, found herself on the brink of realizing a dream she had shared with her late husband, a dream they had built through years of hard work and sacrifice. With her heart set on finally owning a Ferrari, Amelia walked into a luxury car dealership, only to be met with disdain and humiliation. The salesman, blind to her true worth, dismissed her based on her age and appearance. But little did they know, this resilient woman was a pillar of strength and determination. Refusing to be broken by their scorn, Amelia channeled her resolve into something far greater than a mere purchase. She set in motion a plan that would not only fulfill her dream but transform the very place that sought to belittle her. By the next morning, Amelia Harrington had bought the dealership, turning it into a beacon of respect, inclusion, and opportunity. Through her leadership, Amelia transformed the dealership into a space where dreams were nurtured, where every person, regardless of their background, was treated with the dignity they deserved. In doing so, she inspired a community and touched countless lives, proving that true strength lies not in wealth or status, but in the courage to stand up for what is right. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Before we dive into this story, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Amelia Harrington, an 80-year-old black woman, walked into a luxury car dealership with a clear purpose to purchase the car of her dreams. But instead of receiving the respect she deserved, she was met with scorn and disdain, eventually being thrown out of the establishment. What the arrogant staff didn't realize was that Amelia hailed from one of the most distinguished families in the entire town, her legacy etched in the very fabric of the community. As the first rays of the morning sun filtered gently through the delicate lace curtains of her bedroom, they softly cast a glow on the numerous black and white photographs that adorned the walls. These were not just pictures but treasured memories of a life well lived, each image capturing moments of victory, resilience, and the strength to rise above life's adversities. Amelia slowly opened her eyes, her heart swelling with anticipation and joy. Today was no ordinary day, it was the culmination of years of dreaming and waiting. Despite her 82 years, she moved with a grace and vigor that belied her age, swiftly getting out of bed. Her time-weathered hands, strong and steady, reached for a cherished photograph on the bedside table. The picture displayed a much younger Amelia standing proudly beside a gleaming red sports car, her eyes alight with youthful enthusiasm and hope. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. "Today's the day, my love," she whispered to the photograph of her late husband, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm finally going to get that Ferrari we always dreamed of." As she prepared herself for the day, Amelia's mind wandered back through the decades, recalling the winding road that had led her to this moment. Born into a humble household, she and her husband had climbed the ranks of society through sheer grit and unwavering resolve, building a vast industrial empire from the ground up. Now, 5 years after losing her beloved partner, Amelia felt that the time had come to honor the dream they had nurtured together, a dream they had repeatedly set aside for the sake of greater responsibilities. Her breakfast was a solitary affair, the only sound in the quiet room being the soft clinking of her spoon against the china teacup. As she gazed out at the lush garden from the kitchen window, memories flooded back, memories of mornings spent with her husband, planning their future, their conversations often drifting to the day when they could finally own a car as splendid as a Ferrari. A wistful smile touched her lips as she murmured to herself, "Better late than never." Dressed in an understated yet elegant ensemble, Amelia picked up her handbag and stepped out of her stately home. Her chauffeur, a kind man hired by her ever-concerned children, was already waiting in the driveway, the car engine softly purring. "Good morning, Mrs. Harrington," he greeted her with warm respect. "Where to today?" "To the Ferrari dealership downtown. James, Amelia responded, a spark of determination flickering in her bright blue eyes. As the car glided through the bustling city streets, Amelia stared out of the window, watching the world go by. Every street and building evoked memories, each one a reminder of how much had changed since she first arrived in this city so many years ago, armed with nothing but dreams and an indomitable spirit. Now, on the brink of realizing one of her life's greatest aspirations, she felt a powerful blend of excitement and nostalgia swirling within her, as if all the years of waiting had led her to this very moment. When they arrived at the dealership, James stepped out and swiftly opened the door for Amelia. She paused for a moment, taking a deep breath, as if to gather her resolve. With a steady hand, she adjusted the pearl necklace that had been a precious gift from her husband on their golden wedding anniversary. The weight of the pearls was comforting, a tangible reminder of the love and life they had shared. With each step towards the entrance, her posture exuded confidence, her steps firm and deliberate. The inside of the dealership was a dazzling display of opulence, where luxury met engineering excellence. Brilliantly polished cars in vibrant reds, dazzling yellows, and sleek, intimidating blacks were meticulously arranged, each one vying for attention as if aware of its own magnificence. Amelia's heart fluttered with a mixture of excitement and nostalgia. It felt as though she had stepped into a dream she and her late husband had nurtured for decades. As she wandered among the gleaming vehicles, her eyes drinking in every detail, she couldn't help but notice the stares from the salesmen. Their expressions were not of professional courtesy or even mild interest, but of barely concealed disdain and impatience. She could almost hear their condescending thoughts, "What's an old woman doing in a place like this?" A young salesman, sharp in his expensive suit, approached her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Can I help you, Mom? Perhaps you're looking for the antique store across the street." Amelia felt a sharp pang in her chest, but she kept her composure intact. "Actually, young man, I'm here to buy a Ferrari. Could you show me the models you have available?" The salesman's eyes widened in disbelief, and he exchanged a smirk with his colleagues before responding, his tone dripping with condescension. "Ma'am, Ferraris are high-performance vehicles, perhaps something more suited to your stage in life would be better. Maybe I could direct you to a dealership that offers more comfortable options." A wave of humiliation washed over Amelia, but she refused to let it show. She met the salesman's gaze, her voice steady and resolute. "Young man, one should never judge a book by its cover. I came here today to purchase a Ferrari, and that is exactly what I intend to do." At that moment, the store manager, drawn by the commotion, approached with a smile that was as fake as the salesman's. "Mrs. Harrington." "Amelia Harrington," she replied, her tone cold as ice. "Mrs. Harrington, I understand your interest, but perhaps we could recommend something more fitting for your needs. We have partnerships with other dealerships that—" Amelia raised her hand, cutting him off mid-sentence. "I see. It appears I've made an error in coming here today. Thank you for your time, gentlemen." With a regal grace, Amelia turned on her heel and walked towards the exit, her head held high. Though tears of frustration and hurt threatened to spill, she held them back with sheer willpower. As James opened the car door for her, she cast one last glance at the dealership. The emotions churning within her anger, disappointment were soon overshadowed by a growing, fiery determination. The ride home was spent in silence, the weight of the morning's events heavy in the air. Amelia's mind, however, was anything but still. The sneering faces of the salesmen and their patronizing words echoed in her thoughts, fueling a resolve that grew stronger with every passing second. She had faced far greater challenges in her life, and she would not let this indignity stand. Upon arriving home, Amelia wasted no time. She strode purposefully to her office, the room where so many decisions that shaped her life had been made. Sitting at the solid oak desk that had once belonged to her husband, she picked up the phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in years. "Hello, Mr. Thompson. This is Amelia Harrington." "Yes, I'm well, thank you. Listen, I need you to do something for me. I want a full report on the Ferrari dealership downtown, the owners, their financial standing, everything. And one more thing, prepare the necessary documents for a purchase." "Yes, you heard me correctly. An acquisition." As she set the phone down, Amelia glanced at the photograph of her husband on the desk, her lips curving into a smile that was both determined and triumphant. "My love, it seems we'll be acquiring more than just a car. It's time to teach these people a lesson in respect and dignity." The golden afternoon light streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across the room, but Amelia's eyes sparkled with an inner fire. Tomorrow would bring a new dawn, one where she would prove that age and appearance are mere trifles when faced with the true strength of character and willpower. Amelia Harrington was about to make a statement the world wouldn't soon forget. The following morning greeted Amelia with a sense of purpose that made the air itself feel charged with energy. She awoke before the alarm, her mind sharp and focused, her heart beating with the anticipation of what lay ahead. Every action as she prepared for the day was deliberate, like a warrior readying themselves for battle. Today was the day she would show the world that her spirit, her determination, and her dignity were unshakable forces far more powerful than the shallow judgments of those who failed to see her worth. Breakfast was served on the terrace, where the gentle hues of the sunrise bathed the sky in warm shades of pink and orange, a serene backdrop for what Amelia knew would be a pivotal day. She inhaled deeply, savoring the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee, but more so, she reveled in the sense of anticipation that hung in the air like an electric charge. The tranquil morning was interrupted by the sharp ring of her phone. Mrs. Harrington came the steady voice of Mr. Thompson, her trusted lawyer, on the other end. "I have the information you requested." Amelia listened closely, her eyes narrowing slightly as Mr. Thompson outlined the financial troubles plaguing the Ferrari dealership. Beneath the veneer of luxury and sophistication, the business was teetering on the edge, struggling to maintain its lavish facade. A subtle smile tugged at the corners of Amelia's lips. Her instincts had been spot on. "Excellent work, Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice tinged with satisfaction. "Prepare all the necessary documents. I'll be there to pick you up in an hour." After ending the call, Amelia dialed another number. Michael, she spoke to her personal assistant, a sharp and efficient young man. "Get ready. Today is going to be unforgettable." Exactly 1 hour later, Amelia was dressed in a timeless Chanel suit, her gray hair styled to perfection, exuding an air of elegance and power. She stepped into the waiting limousine where Mr. Thompson sat, a thick folder of documents balanced on his lap. "Are you ready, Mrs. Harrington?" Mr. Thompson asked, a hint of concern in his usually calm demeanor. Amelia's smile was both reassuring and resolute, her eyes gleaming with the confidence of a woman who had faced and conquered far greater challenges. "My dear, I've been preparing for this moment for longer than you can imagine." The limousine glided to a stop in front of the Ferrari dealership. Amelia took a deliberate breath, adjusted her pearl necklace, the one her husband had gifted her on their golden anniversary, a gesture that had become her ritual of strength. She stepped out of the car with the poise of royalty, ready to reclaim what was rightfully hers. Flanked by Mr. Thompson and Michael, Amelia strode into the dealership, her presence commanding immediate attention. The once buzzing showroom fell silent as every eye turned towards the trio, the employees' faces a mix of shock and unease. The manager, who had belittled her the previous day, approached with a stiff, insincere smile. "Mrs. Harrington, what a pleasant surprise. How can we assist you today?" If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Amelia met his gaze with a calm, yet piercing look, her voice steady and authoritative. "It seems there was a misunderstanding yesterday. I'm here to correct that. I would like to speak with the owner." The manager hesitated, his smile faltering under the weight of her gaze. "I'm afraid the owner is not available at the moment. Perhaps I can assist you instead." "Oh, I'm certain you can," Amelia responded, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "Mr. Thompson, if you would, please." Stepping forward, Mr. Thompson opened his briefcase with a practiced air of precision. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice carrying across the silent showroom, "I represent Mrs. Amelia Harrington, who is here today to express her interest in acquiring this dealership." A stunned hush fell over the room, the manager's eyes wide with disbelief. He glanced between Amelia and Mr. Thompson, struggling to comprehend the gravity of what was unfolding. Seizing the moment, Amelia walked further into the showroom, her heels clicking sharply against the polished marble floor, each step echoing the significance of her presence. She paused in front of a gleaming red Ferrari, her fingers grazing the sleek, flawless hood as memories of long-held dreams flooded her heart. "You know," she began, her voice laced with both nostalgia and emotion, "when I was younger, my husband and I dreamed of owning a car like this. We worked tirelessly, built an empire from the ground up, and faced challenges that would have broken lesser spirits. Yet we always put our dream on hold, prioritizing the needs of others over our own." Turning to face the gathered employees, Amelia's gaze was intense, sweeping over the room with the authority of someone who had earned her place. "When I walked through these doors yesterday, ready to finally fulfill that dream, I was met with disrespect, condescension, and judgment. I was assessed not by my character or my accomplishments, but by the superficial markers of age and appearance." Her words hung in the air, heavy with the truth of her experience, as the employees stood frozen, caught in the realization of their mistake. Amelia's voice, though calm, carried the weight of a lifetime of perseverance and the undeniable power of a woman who knew her worth. "And now," she continued, her tone resolute, "I am here to ensure that no one else who walks through these doors is treated with the same disdain. I am here to reclaim the dignity that was denied to me and to remind you all that respect is not something to be dispensed selectively. It is a right owed to every person who stands before you." Amelia's gaze swept over the room one last time, her presence filling the space with an undeniable power. The Ferrari dealership, a place that had once symbolized unattainable luxury, was now the stage for a lesson in humility and respect, a lesson that would be remembered long after the day was done. As the manager gradually regained his composure from the initial shock, he attempted to intervene. "Mrs. Harrington, we sincerely regret the unfortunate misunderstanding that occurred yesterday. Please allow us the opportunity to make amends. It would be our privilege to present to you our finest models." But Amelia raised her hand, signaling for silence. "I'm not here today to purchase just a single car, sir. I've come to acquire the entire dealership." A wave of astonishment rippled through the room, leaving the air thick with disbelief. Amelia stood tall, her voice resolute and unwavering. "Last night I spent a great deal of time contemplating the treatment I endured, and it became crystal clear to me that this incident was not an isolated one. How many others have walked through these doors only to be judged and dismissed because of their appearance or their age? How many aspirations have been mocked within these walls?" She paused, letting the gravity of her words permeate the room. "I decided that it was time for a change that begins here today." Mr. Thompson, her trusted advisor, stepped forward, handing a stack of documents to the stunned manager. "As you can see, Mrs. Harrington's offer is more than fair, especially considering the dealership's current financial standing." The manager, visibly shaken, leafed through the documents with trembling hands. His face paled as the numbers leaped off the pages, the reality of Amelia's serious intent finally dawning on him. Amelia approached him, her tone softening yet remaining firm. "My goal here isn't to punish or exact revenge. I'm here to initiate a transformation that fosters an environment where dreams are nurtured and individuals are valued for who they are, not just how they appear." She turned her gaze toward the staff, who stood in silence, torn between fear and intrigue. "Those of you who are willing to embrace this new vision to treat every customer with the respect and dignity they deserve, regardless of their age, appearance, or background, will find a place here. But those who aren't aligned with this ethos, it might be time to seek new opportunities elsewhere." The room was engulfed in silence, broken only by the sound of a single pair of hands clapping. All eyes turned to Dylan, the young mechanic, who stood with tears glistening in his eyes, applauding. Gradually, the applause spread throughout the room, growing louder and more fervent until it filled the entire showroom. Amelia smiled, deeply moved by the overwhelming response. She glanced at Mr. Thompson and gave a subtle nod. "Let's finalize the details in my office, shall we?" As she made her way to the exit, Amelia paused once more in front of the red Ferrari that had once captivated her. With a knowing smile, she turned to Michael, the salesman. "Arrange for a test drive tomorrow, will you? After all, I still have a dream that needs to be realized." Stepping out of the dealership, which now belonged to her, Amelia felt the heavy burden of long-held expectations and deferred dreams lift from her shoulders. The afternoon sun beamed down warmly, as if celebrating the new chapter unfolding in her life. She climbed into her limousine, ready to embark on the journey of transforming not just the dealership but the lives of all who would cross its threshold. The dawn of a new day saw Amelia Harrington arrive at her newly acquired dealership. The building's sleek glass and steel facade gleamed under the golden rays of the rising sun, symbolizing not just a fresh start, but the birth of a new era. Amelia paused for a moment, drawing in a deep breath, as the enormity of her new responsibility settled upon her. As she entered the showroom, she was met by a profound silence. The luxury cars, once mere objects of desire, now seemed to stand as silent witnesses to the change that was about to unfold. Amelia moved slowly through the space, her footsteps echoing in the vast, empty room. Every touch of a steering wheel, every glance at a polished dashboard, stirred memories of dreams she had once set aside. Mrs. Harrington came the tentative voice of Dylan, breaking the quiet. Amelia turned to see the young mechanic standing nervously at the entrance to the workshop. "Sorry, I arrived early and—" Amelia smiled warmly, easing the tension that hung in the air. "Good morning, Dylan. No need to apologize. I'm glad you're here. May we have a word?" Dylan nodded, following her into a small office tucked away at the back of the showroom. As they sat down, Amelia noticed the roughness of his hands and the grease stains under his nails, marks of a hard-working individual. These were the hands of someone who understood the value of effort, and it was these very qualities that Amelia intended to honor in the new chapter she was about to write. "Dylan, you have a deep love for cars, don't you?" Amelia's voice was gentle, yet it carried the weight of genuine curiosity. Dylan's eyes sparkled with uncontainable enthusiasm. "More than anything in the world, Mrs. Harrington. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always dreamt of working on these amazing machines." Amelia's smile widened, seeing in him the same fire that once burned brightly in both her and her late husband. "That's precisely why I'm here, Dylan, to transform this dealership into a place where dreams are honored and cultivated, not crushed and dismissed." Over the next few minutes, Amelia unfolded her vision for the dealership, a vision rooted in respect, equality, and the unwavering belief in the value of every individual who walked through those doors, be they customers or employees. Dylan listened with rapt attention, his eyes reflecting a newfound hope and deep admiration. "Mrs. Harrington, "That sounds incredible," Dylan murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "But how can we possibly make it happen?" Amelia placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, her eyes filled with determination. "Together, Dylan. Starting right now." The following hours were a blur of activity. Amelia called a meeting with the entire staff, her presence commanding a newfound respect and attention. With a voice that was both firm and compassionate, she laid out her blueprint for the future of the dealership. "From this day forward," she declared, her voice ringing through the showroom, "this will no longer just be a place where luxury cars are sold. It will become a beacon of transformation for our customers and ourselves." Amelia introduced a comprehensive training program focused on exceptional customer service and the importance of respecting differences. While some employees, particularly those who had treated her with disdain in the past, reacted with skepticism, others like Dylan embraced the change with open arms and enthusiasm. Those who are unable to adapt to this new philosophy, Amelia continued, her gaze sweeping over every face in the room, will be encouraged to seek opportunities elsewhere. But for those who stay, I promise an environment where mutual respect is the foundation and every individual is valued. In the days that followed, the dealership began to undergo a profound metamorphosis. Amelia poured herself into the work, often being the first to arrive in the morning and the last to leave at night. She took a hands-on approach to redesigning the physical space, turning what was once a cold, impersonal showroom into a warm and welcoming haven. A comfortable waiting area was created, complete with plush armchairs and a small library. "Not everyone who comes through our doors will be ready to buy right away," Amelia explained to Dylan as they oversaw the installation. "Some will be here to dream, to find inspiration, and those dreams deserve a nurturing environment." Amelia also implemented a hiring policy that celebrated diversity, bringing in young talents from various backgrounds. Each new hire brought fresh perspectives and energy, turning the dealership into a vibrant reflection of the city's rich diversity, a microcosm of inclusion and respect. One of the most pivotal moments in this transformation came when Amelia made the bold decision to hire Sarah, a young woman in a wheelchair who had an unparalleled passion for sports cars. Some questioned the practicality of the decision, doubting how she could test drive the vehicles. "Gentlemen," Amelia responded firmly, "Sarah doesn't need to drive a car to understand and share the passion for them. Her unique perspective will enable us to better serve a segment of our customers that is often overlooked in this industry." Sarah's arrival added a new dimension to the dealership. She collaborated with engineers to develop adaptations that made sports cars more accessible, opening up a new market and setting an inspiring precedent in the automotive world. As the transformation took shape, Amelia never lost sight of her original dream. One bright morning, she called Dylan into the showroom with a knowing smile. "Dylan," she said, a playful twinkle in her eye, "I think it's about time you took that test drive, don't you?" Dylan's eyes widened in disbelief and excitement as Amelia gestured toward the gleaming red Ferrari. Together, they embarked on a thrilling drive through the city, the roar of the engine turning heads and drawing admiring glances from onlookers. During the drive, Amelia shared stories from her life with Dylan, recounting the challenges she had faced, the dreams she had pursued, and the invaluable lessons she had learned along the way. Dylan hummed on her every word, absorbing the wisdom she offered as though it were a precious gift. When they returned to the dealership, Amelia parked the car and turned to Dylan with a satisfied smile. "You know, Dylan," she said, her voice tinged with deep emotion, "fulfilling a dream is often about more than just ourselves. It's about inspiring others to believe in their dreams too." Dylan nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. "Mrs. Harrington, what you're doing here is more than just transforming a business, you're changing lives, including mine." Amelia's heart swelled with emotion as she took in his words. She glanced around the now transformed showroom, no longer seeing just a collection of luxury vehicles, but a space brimming with possibility, a sanctuary where dreams were valued and nurtured. This dealership was becoming something far greater than a mere business. It was evolving into a beacon of hope and change for the entire community. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm golden light over the gleaming cars, Amelia felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey of transformation had only just begun, yet its ripple effects were already reaching far beyond the dealership's walls. What had started as a personal mission was now the foundation of a quiet revolution, one rooted in respect, dignity, and the fulfillment of long-deferred dreams. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 3 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. The late afternoon sunlight streamed through the expansive windows of the dealership, casting an almost magical glow on the cars displayed inside. Amelia Harrington sat quietly in her new office, her gaze fixed on the pile of resumes spread out before her. Each sheet of paper represented a different life story, a collection of hopes and dreams, each one waiting for a chance to be realized. Her hands, though marked by age, moved deftly as she sifted through the applications, almost as if she could feel the weight of the aspirations contained in every word. A gentle knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in," she called, her voice a blend of authority and warmth, traits that had come to define her leadership over the past few weeks. Dylan, the young mechanic who had become so dear to her, stepped into the room. But today something was different. The usual spark in his eyes was dimmed, overshadowed by a hint of worry. Amelia noticed it immediately and felt a pang of concern. "Dylan, sweetheart, what's the matter?" she asked, motioning for him to sit in the chair opposite her. Dylan lowered himself into the chair, his hands fidgeting nervously in his lap. "Mrs. Harrington, there's something I need to talk to you about," he began, his voice tinged with apprehension. Amelia leaned in, her sharp blue eyes locked onto his. "I'm all ears, Dylan. Tell me what's troubling you." He took a deep breath, gathering the courage to speak his mind. "I love working here, Mrs. Harrington. The changes you're making, everything, it's incredible." But he paused, swallowing hard before continuing, "But I think I'm going to have to quit." The words spilled out quickly, as if he feared losing his nerve. "My college tuition just went up, and I can't afford it anymore. I need to find a full-time job, maybe even 2, to cover the costs." The room fell into a heavy silence, thick with the unspoken pain of dashed dreams. Amelia studied Dylan intently, seeing not just a skilled mechanic, but a young man with a burning passion, a dreamer who reminded her so much of herself when she was younger. "Dylan," she began softly, "would you share with me what you're studying? What are your plans?" His eyes brightened, even through the sadness. "Mechanical engineering, Mrs. Harrington. I've always wanted to design cars, to create something that could make a difference in people's lives." Amelia's heart warmed as she recognized the same spark of ambition she had seen in herself for so many years, the same fire that had driven her and her late husband to build their company from the ground up. She walked over to the large window, her thoughts drifting back to those early days. "You know, Dylan," she said, her voice carrying the weight of her memories, "when I was your age, I too had to make some very difficult choices. My husband and I started with nothing. We faced challenges that seemed impossible to overcome." She turned back to Dylan, her eyes glistening with emotion. "But we were fortunate. We met people along the way who believed in us, who gave us a chance when we needed it most." Amelia paused, letting the silence emphasize her next words. "And now, Dylan, it's my turn to be that person for you. I believe in your dream, just as someone once believed in mine. If you're willing, I'd like to find a way to keep you here while also supporting your studies. After all, dreams like yours are the reason I'm doing all of this." Dylan's eyes filled with tears, not just from gratitude, but from the profound realization that his dream might still be within reach. "Mrs. Harrington, I don't even know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem enough." Amelia smiled, her heart full. "You don't need to say anything, Dylan. Just keep dreaming, keep working hard, and one day you'll create something truly extraordinary. And when that day comes, I'll be there, cheering you on, just as you've cheered for me." As the sun finally set, casting a deep, golden hue over the dealership, Amelia knew that this was just the beginning. Not just for the dealership, or for herself, but for Dylan and for all the others whose lives would be touched by the changes she was making. It was the beginning of something beautiful, a new era where dreams were no longer stifled, but given the space and support they needed to flourish. Dylan listened intently, absorbing each word as though they were precious gems of wisdom. Amelia continued as she settled back into her chair, her tone gentle yet purposeful. "What if I told you that you don't have to choose between your dream and your job here?" Dylan blinked, confusion crossing his face. "What do you mean, Mrs. Harrington?" A warm smile spread across Amelia's face as she leaned in closer. "I'm offering to cover the cost of your education, Dylan. Think of it as an investment not just in your future, but in the future of this dealership and in everyone whose lives will be touched by your talent." Dylan's eyes widened, a blend of shock and disbelief evident in his expression. "But Mrs. Harrington, I can't accept this. It's too much. I don't even know how to thank you." Amelia raised her hand, gently signaling him to pause. "Dylan, when I watch you work, I see not just skill, but a burning passion and a dedication that are rare to find. It would be a tragedy to see that potential go to waste because of financial constraints." She paused, her gaze softening as she recalled her journey. "You remind me so much of myself when I was your age, determined, full of dreams, yet facing what seemed like insurmountable challenges." Dylan was rendered speechless, his emotions welling up and threatening to overflow. Tears began to form in his eyes as he realized the magnitude of her offer. Amelia continued, her voice tinged with emotion. "All I ask in return is that you give your studies your absolute best and continue working here part-time. And when you graduate, I hope you'll bring your newfound skills and knowledge back to this dealership to help us build something truly special." The room fell into a profound silence, punctuated only by the faint ticking of the clock on the wall. Dylan stared at Amelia, his mind racing to comprehend the life-changing opportunity being offered to him. I don't know what to say, Mrs. Harrington," he finally whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. Amelia smiled warmly and reached out, taking Dylan's hand in hers. "Just tell me you'll accept. Tell me that you'll chase your dream with all the passion and determination that I know you have within you." Dylan nodded, tears now freely streaming down his face. "I accept, Mrs. Harrington. I promise I won't let you down. I'll make sure your faith in me isn't misplaced." "I know you won't," my dear Amelia replied, her own heart brimming with emotion as she squeezed his hand gently. The bond between them had deepened, forged by shared dreams and the promise of a brighter future, one that they would build together. In that moment, something far more profound than a simple business arrangement was forged. It marked the beginning of a mentorship, a bond that transcended the boundaries of age and experience, blossoming into a friendship that would bridge generations. Amelia didn't just see Dylan as a promising young employee, she saw in him a living legacy, a vessel through which she could pass on the wisdom and lessons she had gathered throughout her journey. As Dylan left the office, his step lighter and more purposeful, Amelia reclined in her chair, a contented smile spreading across her face. She glanced over at the framed photo of her late husband on the desk, her eyes softening. "Did you see that, darling?" she whispered, a touch of nostalgia in her voice. "We're still making dreams come true, even after all these years." The sun was beginning its descent, casting long, golden shadows across the office. Amelia felt a deep sense of renewal, as if her purpose had been reignited. The transformation of the dealership was no longer just about cars and profits. It had become a mission to change lives, nurture dreams, and build a brighter future, one talented young soul at a time. The next morning, as dawn broke over the horizon, the sky was painted in gentle hues of pink and orange. Amelia Harrington arrived at the dealership, the crisp morning air filled with the promise of new beginnings. There was an electric energy in the air that seemed to flow through every corner of the freshly renovated building. She paused for a moment outside, gazing at the gleaming new facade, where a freshly installed logo proudly read Harrington Motors, where dreams take wing. Upon entering, Amelia was greeted by the lively hum of activity. Employees moved with a sense of purpose, their faces brightened by genuine smiles. As she took in the scene, a swell of pride filled her heart. The transformation extended far beyond the physical space. It was evident in the people themselves, who now carried themselves with newfound confidence and joy. "Good morning, Mrs. Harrington," called out Sarah, the vibrant young woman in a wheelchair whom Amelia had recently hired. Her voice was filled with excitement as she approached, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "We have a little surprise for you today." Amelia, her curiosity piqued, followed Sarah into the main exhibition area. To her astonishment, she found the space filled with clients both old and new, employees and their families, and even members of the local media. In the center of it all hung a large, colorful banner that read, "Thank you, Amelia Harrington, for transforming not just cars but lives." Dylan stepped forward, his face alight with a broad, grateful smile. "Mrs. Harrington, we all wanted to express our thanks for everything you've done, not just for us as individuals, but for the entire community." Overcome with emotion, Amelia felt tears welling in her eyes. This was more than she had ever imagined when she first set out on this path. The dealership had truly become a beacon of hope and transformation, a place where dreams were not just conceived but nurtured and realized. She looked around at the faces smiling back at her, each one a testament to the impact of her vision and the power of kindness, respect, and unwavering belief in the potential of others. Amelia knew that this was just the beginning. With a renewed sense of purpose and the knowledge that she was building something far more enduring than a business, she felt ready to continue this journey of transformation. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "This is only the start of what we can achieve together. Let's continue to make this place a symbol of hope, a place where dreams truly take flight." The room erupted in applause, and Amelia knew, without a doubt, that her late husband would be proud of what they had started together, and how it was now blossoming into something far beyond either of their wildest dreams. Amelia felt the tears welling up as she took in the scene before her. Every face in the room held a story, each one touched in some way by the changes she had set in motion. A middle-aged man stepped forward, his voice thick with emotion. "Mrs. Harrington, my name is Robert. A month ago, I walked in here, expecting to be dismissed for wanting to buy my first luxury car at the age of 55. Instead, I was met with respect and dignity. Today, I not only drive the car of my dreams, but I've also gained a new confidence in myself." Next, a young mother approached, a baby cradled in her arms. "I'm Maria," she said, her voice warm with gratitude. "When I came here looking for a safe car for my family, I feared I'd be overlooked or treated dismissively. But Sarah welcomed me with patience and understanding, showing me options that I hadn't even considered. Thanks to her, I found the perfect car to keep my son safe." One by one, more stories poured out. A retired man who had finally fulfilled his lifelong dream of owning a sports car. A young entrepreneur who drew inspiration from Amelia's journey to chase his ambitions. A couple who celebrated their milestone anniversary by purchasing a car that symbolized their shared journey through life. As Amelia listened to each story, her heart swelled with a profound sense of fulfillment. The vision she had for this dealership had expanded far beyond its walls, rippling through the lives of those in the community, fostering change and sparking inspiration. Standing beside her, Dylan sniffled softly, mustering the courage to speak. "Mrs. Harrington, there's something else we want to show you," he said, his voice tinged with anticipation. He led Amelia to a section of the showroom that was concealed beneath a large cloth. With a swift, dramatic motion, Dylan and Sarah pulled the cloth away, revealing a gleaming car beneath. But this was no ordinary car. It was a painstakingly restored replica of the very model that Amelia and her late husband had once dreamed of owning decades ago. "We found an old photo of you and your husband admiring this car," Sarah explained, her eyes glimmering with pride. "We've been working in secret for weeks to bring it back to life. It's our gift to you, a symbol of how dreams can still come true, no matter how much time has passed." Amelia stood speechless, her hands trembling as they touched the polished surface of the car's hood. A flood of memories washed over her dreams shared with her husband, the battles they fought together, the triumphs they celebrated, and now this, a moment of unimaginable realization. She began, her voice breaking with emotion. "You have no idea what this means to me." Turning to face the crowd gathered around her, Amelia took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing thoughts. "When I bought this dealership," she said, her voice carrying across the room, "I believed I was fulfilling a personal dream, teaching a lesson about respect. But you have shown me that it's become something far greater. Together, we've created a place where dreams are nurtured, where people are valued for who they are, not for what they own, not for how they look." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 4 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. She paused, her gaze moving from one face to the next, each pair of eyes reflecting the same deep emotion. "Every one of you has a dream, a story worth telling. And it's our duty, mine, the employees of this dealership, and every one of you to carry this message of respect, inclusion, and hope out into the world, beyond these walls." A wave of applause erupted, filling the showroom with a sound that resonated with collective joy and gratitude. Amelia saw tears in many eyes, mirroring her own. At that moment, she knew that her journey was far from complete. This was not the end, but rather the beginning of something far more significant. As the celebration swirled around her, Amelia found herself reflecting on the incredible path that had led her to this moment. From a disregarded customer to a transformative leader, she had not just reshaped a business, but ignited a quiet revolution of empathy, compassion, and respect. The afternoon sun now streamed brightly through the dealership's expansive windows, casting a golden glow over the people and cars within. Amelia smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace and renewed purpose. The future stretched out before her, full of endless possibilities, with the promise of more lives to touch and more dreams to help come true. As she watched Dylan and Sarah laugh and converse with the customers, a gentle warmth spread across her shoulder. For just a brief, fleeting moment, she felt a presence beside her, a presence she knew so well. It was as though her late husband was there, smiling proudly, sharing in the joy of the legacy they had built together. "Look what we've done," darling Amelia whispered to herself, her voice filled with both pride and determination. And that's just the beginning. Autumn had draped the landscape around the dealership in a beautiful tapestry of red, gold, and amber. From her office window, Amelia Harrington watched the leaves dance in the crisp breeze, a steaming cup of tea warming her hands. The familiar scent of bergamot wafted through the air, stirring memories of days long past, of battles fought and victories won. Her quiet reflection was interrupted by a soft knock at the door. "Come in," she called, turning to see Michael, her assistant, enter with a troubled look on his face. "Mrs. Harrington," he began, his voice tinged with hesitation, "we have a problem." Amelia immediately sat up straighter, placing her teacup on the table. "What kind of problem, Michael?" With a sigh, Michael placed a thick folder on her desk, opening it to reveal a series of charts, graphs, and financial statements. The figures for the last quarter, AM, they're concerning. A deep frown etched itself on Amelia's face as she quickly scanned the documents. The numbers and trends painted a bleak picture. The dealership was in a far more precarious financial position than she had anticipated. How can this be? She murmured, more to herself than to Michael. We've seen a steady flow of customers, and sales seem to be on the rise. Michael shifted nervously, clearly uncomfortable delivering the bad news. It appears the costs of the renovations and the new training programs were significantly higher than we projected. And there's also the financial burden of the student loans you've been offering to employees. Amelia closed her eyes briefly, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on her. She had been so focused on changing lives and fulfilling dreams that she had lost sight of the financial realities underpinning the business. "Please call Dylan and Sarah," she instructed, her voice steady despite the turmoil she felt inside, "and ask all the employees to gather in the showroom in an hour." When Dylan and Sarah entered her office a few minutes later, they found Amelia standing by the window, her gaze distant yet intense. She turned to face them, her blue eyes reflecting a mix of concern and steely resolve. "My dears," she began, her voice gentle but firm, "we have a serious challenge ahead of us." She laid out the situation in clear terms, sparing no details. As she spoke, she saw the shock and concern in their eyes, but she also noticed something else: an emerging determination, a shared commitment to overcoming the obstacles ahead. "What can we do?" Mrs. Harrington, Dylan asked, his voice resolute. "How can we help?" Amelia smiled, her heart swelling with pride at their willingness to stand by her. "That's exactly what we're going to figure out together." An hour later, the showroom was filled with employees from every department. A nervous murmur buzzed through the crowd, but as Amelia stepped up to a small podium, the room fell into a hush, all eyes fixed on her. "My friends," she began, her voice clear and unwavering, "in the past few months, we have accomplished extraordinary things. Together, we have not only transformed this dealership but also touched lives and inspired dreams." She paused, allowing her words to settle over the room. "But now we face a significant challenge, a financial challenge that threatens the very foundation of what we've built." The silence in the room was palpable, every face etched with a mixture of fear and concern. Amelia continued, her voice strong yet compassionate. "I won't sugarcoat it. The road ahead will be difficult, and it will require all of us to pull together, to innovate, and to make sacrifices. But I believe in this team. I believe in what we've created here, and I know that together we can find a way through this." She looked out at the crowd, her gaze meeting each of them, instilling hope and determination. "We will brainstorm, we will plan, and we will work harder than ever before. But we will not let this setback defeat us. Instead, we will rise to the challenge and emerge stronger on the other side." Dylan and Sarah stood beside her, their expressions reflecting the resolve that was spreading throughout the room. Slowly, murmurs of agreement and encouragement began to ripple through the crowd, growing louder as hope replaced fear. "Let's start by coming up with ideas," Amelia urged, "no matter how small or unconventional they might seem. Every suggestion counts, and together we will find the solutions we need." As the employees began discussing among themselves, offering ideas, and rallying around one another, Amelia felt a renewed sense of purpose. The dealership had become more than just a place of business. It was a community, a family. And she was determined to protect it, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The afternoon sun filtered through the showroom windows, casting a warm glow over the gathering. Amelia knew that the journey would not be easy, but with the support and strength of those around her, she felt confident that they could overcome whatever obstacles came their way. "Look what we've done, darling," she whispered to herself once more, thinking of her late husband. and just imagine what we'll accomplish next." A murmur of concern rippled through the crowd. Amelia raised her hand, gently quieting them. "I'm not here to ask you to give up on your dreams or to retract the promises we've made. I'm here to ask for your help, your ideas, your passion. Together, we will find a solution." The room fell silent, the gravity of her words sinking in. Then, shyly, Sarah raised her hand. "What if we held a charity event? Something to showcase the positive impact we've had on the community?" Dylan's face lit up at the suggestion. "We could organize a classic car parade, invite local car enthusiasts, charge for tickets, and hold auctions to raise funds." As if a floodgate had opened, ideas began pouring in from every corner of the room. A mechanic proposed offering free workshops on basic car maintenance, which could attract potential customers and build goodwill. A saleswoman suggested partnering with local businesses to create unique automotive experience packages that could draw in a broader audience. Amelia watched in awe as her employees rallied together, their minds buzzing with creativity and determination. The energy in the room was electric, a potent mix of hope, determination, and a collective will to overcome the challenges they faced. "We're going to make this happen," she declared, her voice charged with emotion. "Each one of you has a vital role to play. This isn't just my fight, it's our fight." In the weeks that followed, the dealership became a hive of activity. Dylan took charge of organizing the classic car show, dedicating countless hours to ensuring every detail was perfect. Sarah spearheaded a social media campaign, sharing heartfelt stories of customers and employees that captured the spirit of the dealership. Amelia, meanwhile, dove into the financials, working closely with accountants to streamline operations and find ways to cut costs without compromising on the values that the dealership stood for. She spent sleepless nights reflecting on the early days of her struggle with her late husband, drawing strength from the memories and lessons learned along the way. The day of the charity event dawned bright and clear, the sky a perfect canvas of blue. The dealership's parking lot had been transformed into a vibrant showcase of automotive history, with classic cars from every era gleaming under the autumn sun. Their owners stood proudly beside them, sharing stories with the throngs of delighted visitors. Amelia walked through the bustling crowd, her heart swelling with gratitude and optimism. Everywhere she looked, she saw the fruits of their collective effort. Dylan, though visibly exhausted, radiated pride as he oversaw the final details of the auction. Sarah, in her wheelchair, led a group of children on an educational treasure hunt about the history of automobiles, her joy infectious. As the day began to draw to a close, and the sun cast a warm golden light over the scene, Amelia took to the stage for the event's closing remarks. The crowd fell silent as she began to speak, their attention rapt. "A few months ago," she began, her voice soft yet filled with conviction, "I walked into this dealership as a scorned customer. Today I stand before you not just as the owner but as part of a family that comes together in times of joy and in times of challenge." She paused, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "What you see around you are not just cars, they are dreams realized, lives transformed, barriers broken. And all of this was possible because every one of you believed that we could make a difference." A spontaneous round of applause broke out, the sound swelling in intensity. Amelia smiled and raised her hand to calm the crowd. "I don't know what the future holds," she continued, "but I do know that together we can face any challenge because we're not just a dealership, we're a community, a family." As her final words resonated through the air, the sky above erupted in a spectacular fireworks display. Brilliant colors danced across the night sky, reflecting off the polished surfaces of the classic cars and illuminating the faces of the gathered crowd. Amelia descended from the stage and was immediately enveloped in warm embraces from Dylan, Sarah, and the rest of her staff. As the festivities continued, Amelia found herself gazing up at the starry sky, a serene smile on her face. "Look what we've done, darling," she whispered, her heart full. "And this is just the beginning of our new journey." Winter arrived in Millbrook with a quiet, almost reverent stillness. Snowflakes drifted down softly, blanketing the town in a peaceful layer of white. Inside the Harrington Motors dealership, the warm lights glowed through frosted windows, a beacon of hope in the cold night. Amelia sat in her office, her weary eyes scanning the financial reports before her. The charity event had been a tremendous success, injecting much-needed funds and goodwill into the business. Yet, despite the victory, a lingering sense of uncertainty hovered on the horizon. A gentle knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in," she called out, her voice tinged with exhaustion. Dylan entered, carefully balancing 2 steaming cups of tea. His usually bright and enthusiastic eyes were clouded with worry. "I thought you could use this," he said softly, setting a cup in front of Amelia. Amelia smiled gratefully, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. The familiar scent of bergamot filled the air, bringing with it a wave of comforting memories. "Thank you, Dylan," she replied warmly. "Not just for the tea, but for everything you've done." Dylan took a seat across from her, his gaze drifting over the scattered papers. "How are we doing, Mrs. Harrington?" he asked, his voice heavy with concern. Amelia sighed, feeling the full weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her. "Better than we were, but we're not out of the woods yet." The event gave us a boost, but her words were abruptly cut off by the sharp ring of the telephone. She answered it quickly, her brow furrowing as she listened intently to the voice on the other end. Dylan watched her closely, trying to read her expression as the conversation unfolded. When she finally hung up, there was a mix of emotions on her face: surprise, hope, and a touch of skepticism. "It was an investor," she said slowly, still processing the unexpected news. "Someone who heard about our story and wants to help." Dylan's eyes widened with excitement. "That's amazing, Mrs. Harrington. It's exactly what we needed." Amelia nodded, though her expression remained cautious. "It sounds promising, but we need to be careful. I want to make sure that any partnership aligns with our values and our vision for the dealership. We've worked too hard to build something special here. I won't jeopardize that." Dylan leaned forward, his enthusiasm undiminished. "Whatever you decide, we're with you, Mrs. Harrington. We trust you." Amelia smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude for the unwavering support of her team. "Thank you, Dylan. We'll move forward carefully but with hope. And whatever happens, I know that as long as we stand together, we can overcome anything." As Dylan left the office, Amelia turned back to the window, watching the snow fall softly outside. The future remained uncertain, but with every challenge they had faced, they had grown stronger and more resilient. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it would be filled with purpose, guided by the values and dreams they had all worked so hard to cultivate. "Look what we've done, darling," she whispered once more, her heart swelling with a quiet, unshakable determination. "And just imagine where we'll go next." Amelia didn't fully share Dylan's enthusiasm. Yes, but why? Why would someone we don't know be interested in helping us? Before Dylan could respond, there was a gentle knock at the door. Sarah walked in, her face illuminated with a radiant smile. "Sorry to interrupt, but we have a special visitor in the showroom. I think you'll want to see this." Intrigued, Amelia and Dylan followed Sarah into the main showroom. There, amidst the polished cars, stood an elderly man with gray hair, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit. As he turned to face them, Amelia felt a jolt of recognition, her heart skipping a beat. "George," she whispered, hardly believing her eyes. The man smiled warmly, his eyes brimming with emotion. "Hello, Amelia. It's been a long time." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, Drop a 5 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Dylan and Sarah exchanged puzzled looks as Amelia slowly approached the man, almost as if she feared he might vanish. "Do you know him?" Mrs. Harrington Dylan asked quietly. Amelia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "This is George Thompson. He was my husband's closest friend. We lost touch many years ago." George stepped forward, gently taking Amelia's hands in his. "I'm sorry for that, Amelia. Life took us down different roads, but I've never forgotten you. When I heard about what you're doing here, about the lives you're transforming, I knew I had to come." Realization washed over Amelia like a wave. "It was you," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "You're the mystery investor." George nodded, his smile tender. "Consider it a way to honor Robert's memory and everything you two built together. And perhaps it's also a way for me to make amends for past mistakes." Tears streamed down Amelia's face, the weight of years of unspoken emotions finally finding release. Dylan and Sarah stood by, deeply moved by the raw, heartfelt reunion unfolding before them. "But why now?" Amelia's voice trembled as she asked. "Why after all these years?" George sighed, his eyes clouded with regret. "Fear, Amelia. I was afraid to confront the past, to acknowledge the mistakes I made. But when I learned about what you're doing here, how you're giving people second chances, I realized it might not be too late for me either." An emotionally charged silence filled the showroom. Amelia looked around at the gleaming cars, symbols of dreams fulfilled, at Dylan and Sarah, who watched her with empathy, and finally back at George, a living link to her past. "What exactly do you propose, George?" she asked, her voice regaining strength. George's eyes sparkled with determination. "A partnership, Amelia. My financial resources combined with your vision and passion. Together, we can not only save this dealership but expand its mission. Imagine how many more lives we could touch." Amelia closed her eyes briefly, letting the possibilities wash over her. When she opened them, a new light shone in her eyes, a blend of hope and resolve. "Dylan, Sarah," she called out, turning to the young people, "what do you think? This isn't just my decision. We're a family now." Dylan stepped forward, his voice steady and confident. "Mrs. Harrington, you gave us a chance when no one else would. We trust you. If you believe this is the right move, then we're with you." Sarah nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. This dealership is more than just a business, it's a beacon of hope for our community. If we can expand that, touch even more lives, how could we possibly say no?" Amelia's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. She turned back to George, extending her hand. "All right, George, let's do this. Let's build something extraordinary together." As their hands clasped in agreement, sealing their partnership, the snow outside began to fall more heavily. But inside the dealership, a warm sense of renewed hope and possibility spread, igniting the beginning of a new chapter. In the weeks that followed, Harrington Motors underwent a remarkable transformation. With George's financial backing and Amelia's relentless passion, the dealership not only stabilized but thrived. New training programs were established, offering opportunities for disadvantaged youth to acquire valuable skills. The range of cars expanded to include more affordable, eco-friendly options, attracting a wider audience and enhancing the dealership's reputation. On a bright spring afternoon, Amelia stood in the center of the renovated showroom, watching the bustling activity of customers and employees. Dylan approached, a broad smile lighting up his face. "Mrs. Harrington," he began, his voice brimming with pride, "I just received my final grades from last semester. I graduated with honors." Amelia pulled him into a tight embrace, tears of joy filling her eyes. "Oh, Dylan, I'm so proud of you. Your father would be so thrilled." As they parted, Amelia noticed a newfound confidence in Dylan, a determination that surpassed his years. "What's next for you?" she asked softly. "What's the next chapter in your journey?" Dylan glanced around the bustling showroom, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "If it's all right with you, I'd like to stay. There's still so much more we can do, so many lives we can touch. I want to be a part of it." Amelia's heart overflowed with joy. She took Dylan's hands in hers, her voice gentle yet firm. "Nothing could make me happier, dear. Together, we'll continue building something truly extraordinary." As the afternoon sun bathed the showroom in a golden light, Amelia gazed around, seeing not just cars, but the realization of dreams, the transformation of lives, and a future brimming with possibilities. What had begun as a journey marked by humility and adversity had blossomed into something far greater than she ever imagined. And in her heart, Amelia knew that this was only the beginning. The true turning point was just unfolding, and the future held endless potential for growth, hope, and success. As we come to the end of this incredible journey, we hope that Amelia's story has touched your heart and inspired you to reflect on your dreams and challenges. What have you learned from Amelia's resilience, her unwavering belief in the power of second chances, and the importance of community and compassion? We'd love to hear from you. Please share one thing you've learned from this story that you'll bring into your own life in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue to share stories that inspire and uplift. Thank you for being a part of our community, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.